Revision question on sole traders. The scenario, it's Woody Toys. It's Teddy Pine Tree. Woody Toys is located in a small rural town. It is owned and operated by Teddy Pine Tree, who designs and makes a range of high-quality wooden toys, such as aeroplanes, boats, animals and puzzles. However, the shop has become run down and the toys are poorly displayed. Woody Toys has loyal and regular customers, but sales have declined by 20% during the last 3 years. Teddy has therefore decided to close the shop and sell his products through a new Woody Toys website. He hopes this will increase sales and profits. A 4 and a 2 mark question. Teddy Pine Tree operates as a sole trader. Part 1. Explain 2 advantages to Teddy Pine Tree of operating as a sole trader. 4 points. Part 2. Explain 1 disadvantage to Teddy Pine Tree of operating as a sole trader. 2 points. So let's deal with the breakdown of the question. So the first thing to notice is that the exam board has said Teddy Pine Tree is a sole trader. You probably thought he was, but never assume in question, so we'll go with the fact we've now been told. Another bit to notice is that it's asking you to explain, so that's obviously giving the detail, but it's the 2 advantages. Now, whilst that's not a complicated thing to get to understand, which is absolutely fine, the number of times when you get into the question, you start writing, or you're under pressure in the exam and you forget that it's asking you for 2, and that shows you how you get your 4 points. As always, we've got the exam board's guidance of what they're looking for a response. And it's asking you to identify the appropriate advantages to start off with. So that would be your first step towards your response for the question. And once you've identified, you've made the simple statement, it's asking you to develop that sentence, to explain and expand on the point that you've suggested, and as this is an advantage you're writing about, you need to say why it's good. So the favourite, the staple, because should really be used here as a connective, but there are many more to choose from as well. So over we go to look at how we develop and build the blocks towards a explain response for the exam question. So first of all, we'll start off with 1 advantage. You've only got 1 owner. Now that in itself is not an advantage, that is a statement. So we've got to now turn that statement into an advantage. Well, you can say as you're only 1 owner, then in terms of profits, then you are the one that has all the profits. So that is now a statement turned into an advantage because we've developed it and stated why that is a good point from the point of a sole trader. So let's look at another statement. Now we're going to look at, say, the owner, the sole trader, makes all the decisions. Straightforward statement. How are we going to develop that? If the owner makes all the decisions, they're not exactly going to argue with themselves or delay any decisions because it's just them doing it. So they don't have to wait for approval or wait for other people to agree. So therefore the statement has now become the advantage because it's actually been developed as a sentence. As you can see, the way to approach this question is to actually look at the statement of what a sole trader is, and then we're looking at turning those into why that's a good point for the sole trader. So if we look at the next one, you've got a statement of it's easy to start up, and then you've got a development saying you can start trading quickly. Your role now is to turn that into the developed sentence, the comprehensive sentence, to state why easy to start up can possibly then mean you trade quicker, and why is that a good point if it all stems from you can start your business quicker. Now the last one, the accounts are private. That's the accounts of the profit, the loss, the suppliers, the amount of tax. They are private because it's a sole trader, it's an unlimited and unregistered company. Now that's the statement. How can that be an advantage? If we link that with competition can't review processes and ideas, why is it good that the competition can't do that? Think about what the competition could do if this was a successful sole trader and they found out Teddy Pinetree's processes and ideas, what would they do once they found that out? Well, that's it. That's 4 points in front of you, and what we did is we looked at each point we wanted to make. We looked at basically green, purple, green, purple, green, purple, made the statement, developed it, and that's the way the process needs to work when you start writing your responses to these exam questions. Now we're back looking at the second part of the question. So we need to remind ourselves that Teddy is a sole trader. But now the bit to pay attention to is the fact that the exam question is asking you for one disadvantage, and that will only give you 2 points. So again, they're asking for extended responses, extended sentence responses, but this time you've got to be clear. Don't waste your time in the exam going for 2, because the first part said 2, this one is 1 disadvantage. So here it is. This is what the exam board advise in terms of what they're looking for a response for this question. And we're going to approach it as before. We're going to look at the appropriate disadvantage, the first building block. For each statement then we're going to look at how we develop it before we look at another disadvantage. So the first disadvantage we're looking at, that's appropriate to the sole trader and the scenario that we've been given, is that Teddy Pinetree would need to make all the decisions on his own. Now, if he's making all the decisions on his own, then he's looking at sole responsibility. If it's all on his shoulders, that could possibly lead to stress. There we go, we've done a developed sentence on sole person making the decisions. Next step we want to look at, as a sole trader, when Teddy's off work because of sickness, what happens? Well, when he's off work and he's a sole trader, then no work, no pay. But he still has company and domestic home bills to pay, so how's that going to work? He still has a financial responsibility. Let's not ignore the staple one for a sole trader, that the sole trader has unlimited liability. Now what that means is that he is personally responsible for all the business debts, as well as whatever he gets up to as a resident, the domestic uses and domestic bills that he has. He was personally responsible for all business debt as well. Well, with all of this going on for Teddy being a sole trader, with all the decisions, the sole responsibility, he might feel stressed. He's got no one else to bounce ideas off. When he's not at work, he's not going to earn any money, so he's got a responsibility for paying all his bills. Then what exactly would a lender, one of the banks, actually feel about lending money to Teddy for business developments? Well, there it is. Those are 4 disadvantages, and 4 statements rather, that have been developed into disadvantages, and it's your job to explain one of them in order to get 2 points. Now you might think, why isn't there just one? Well, obviously this is a revision question, so this is making sure that you revise the full amount of facts for sole trader disadvantages, and now it's up to you to put your sentences together. And let's not forget, as you need to write developed sentences, that you're going to need to use the high value connectives. Here's a sample of them for you to use and reference. So there we go, we've got basic, identify suitable reason as our green block, and then extending the answer takes you over to the purple, and that's a good focus. We need to make sure that you've got that development of your responses so that you can build up to the silver blocks of success.